I meet a lot of women who are parents of the kids that I work with, and I run these women's chess groups frequently when I can, and they sort of peter out because women often have multiple roles in life, which is part of, the difficulty with staying with chess as an adult woman, because family and career are constantly battling each other. But they'll almost without a doubt, I mean, just universally tell me, oh, I can't play chess. I would never. I couldn't, that's not, my brain can't do that. It doesn't think that way. And and I have to say, like, well, what way? Like, what do you mean? What is it that you think you can't do? Um, and it's very often not a lengthy conversation because they've already decided this is just not for them. They'll let their kid try it. They'll maybe poke around. They'll listen, and then they turn off. And so I feel bad that that has been so ingrained in their psyche, and that they're not going to pursue it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Chess Equity Project interview series. I'm very excited today to introduce a fantastic guest. Jessica Martin is the author of 4 chess books and the founder of the Over the Chessboard School in Charlotte, North Carolina. In her playing days, she was ranked as the #1 woman in North Carolina and was in the top 100 women in the U.S. She's been a chess instructor for over 20 years and started out training with the Chess in Schools program in New York City. She has been the vice president of Scholastic Chess for the North Carolina Chess Association and was a weekly author for Chess Kid from 2010 to 2015. Welcome, Jessica. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, for finding me and giving me a chance to join your really cool project.
I'm really grateful to have you here. So can you tell us about your school, how long you've been teaching, how you got into all of that?
Yeah, well, it's not a school. I teach in after-school chess clubs around the city, the county, in the other counties around the city, and I have a few people that are like subcontractors, and so we go around and teach the chess clubs, but we also have chess tournaments, and we also have workshops and events, and we collaborate with different organizations sometimes to, try to get the word out to other people that chess is for everyone. Anyone can play, anyone can learn, anyone can improve. And yeah, I started teaching. I mean, the chess world is really small. So I played when I was very young, and then I started working with my coach, Ken Larson, Grandmaster Ken Larson in Tucson, Arizona. And then I moved to New York, when I was like, young and super idealistic, finding my people or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna be a poet. And then I was like, or a chess teacher, so then I became a chess teacher. One of the things that I think that I am hopefully teaching is how to think critically, how to question things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you started teaching with chess in the schools. I know a lot of strong players and teachers got their start there. So that's fantastic. And
Yeah. That was
and
a great
now,
experience. I mean, I was
yeah,
19 years old, and I was like taking like the 2 hour long subway and then a bus, and then walking through the Bronx. And, I read so much. I read like the entire Infinite Jest, by David Foster Wallace, like in the first
yeah,
like 6 months, just because I took this long subway ride. But it was also very overwhelming. Like, I think I went home crying every single night because these middle school kids in the Bronx are like way bigger than me. And they didn't want to learn chess. They didn't want to do anything. They didn't want
oh,
to be there. And so it's a really challenging way to like start out. But what happened was, like, after going home crying every night, I realized that like the perseverance of just sort of sticking with it, I was able to connect with some of the kids, and I was able to sort of see that it was just sort of an anti-authority moment in their lives, and that if I could find a different inroad, like, I'm not here to, like, we're here to have fun. So chess in the schools, you may or may not know, like, we didn't just teach after school clubs. We taught the clubs after school, but we also would teach chess in place of math once a week to every single child in the class in a particular grade. So we would reach everybody. I mean, it was an incredible nonprofit program that I would love to replicate in some fashion here. My prime did it for a little while in Charlotte, and it's just such a cool idea because you can really get people involved that may not think that they're interested in chess. And so after a while, like I really had to change my methodology, but the kids, that some of them came around, and I think that one of the things that stuck with me forever is one of the kids was, and the reason I call it over the chessboard now is because one of the kids was, had some difficulties, and after a little while of being in the club, he got really, really good. He got really invested in it. And one of the teachers like found me in the stairwell, and she's like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that like Emmanuel's not on the street. Like he's in school playing chess. Like he wanted to come to school because chess club is today." And like I think, that's a story from the Bronx many years ago, but I do like I call it over the chessboard because I want them to get there, like express themselves over the chessboard rather than in some other way that they may
Yeah,
express themselves more deleteriously.
sure. No, and that's it's such an interesting story to think like you've had to go through a really difficult time of teaching maybe kids who didn't want to learn, and it's kind of this really difficult period that sort of forced you to level up and learn new skills.
It really was a rite of passage. And I think the only way I managed was because there was an excellent group of people around me that supported, this system of teachers, and also like sometimes riding the bus home with the kids, and then you see like, oh, these are just children. Like there's, like they're sort of over, your first year teaching over it's overwhelming in a classroom. But yeah, I definitely after that was like, no, this is what I want to do, and I've just been doing it ever since.
Okay. Well, so you've been teaching for 20 years and you were also a pretty strong player. Like, let me ask you, what's the thing in chess that you're most proud of?
What's the thing in chess?
Yeah, I mean, is it a particular result you had as a player? Is it teaching a particular student? Like, what's your proudest chess moment?
I rather like telling the story of when I was in high school and I was chosen to pick. I was selected to play against Gary Kasparov, who was world champion at the time. And I was living in Arizona, um, and my coach had just taught me our class, our club. He taught us the Dutch, which is one F5. Really, really bad. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's fine. I'm like, okay, all openings are bad against Kasparov, right? But I was like super thrilled to play this move. And so anyway, so I have a very funny story about getting a chance to meet Gary Kasparov and play against him in a cycle, and represent he played like one person from every grade, and I was in 11th grade, and yeah, it was super fun. I mean, he's this very domineering, like assertive character, and like you know he was late. He came in. He's just twice as tall as me, and squeezed my hand, just crushing it. And then here I go, like F5. Anyway, and I felt like move two, like I'm just completely lost. And so I have the score sheet and everything, and then his signature, and I feel very proud about that. And I do tell the story as a funny one because then I get to teach my kids like this is why you don't play the Dutch, but also okay, sure the Dutch is fine. But anyway, that I guess is a proud moment being chosen to participate and to represent, my grade. Winning the state championship when I was really little. I was like in second grade. I was in second and seventh. I won the state championship. I thought that was pretty cool. Those were like little kid achievements, but they also kind of stuck with me and sort of helped me through harder times as an older person because in high school I completely dropped out except for this Kasparov thing. Like I just didn't play, and then early college I didn't play until I went back and I worked with chess in the schools because of part of the reason why you have your show, because of your uh, understanding of how difficult it is for women, young women, girls, any age, female, to be in a male dominated environment, and as an additional pressure in addition to just as hard, you know, playing it, trying to improve, and then they're sort of fighting off these like other external and then internal like uh, unwanted, you know, I don't know what to call them right now. That's pleasant for video, but yeah, experiences. But anyway, so those are the things I'm proud of as a young person. And then I'm super proud that I've been able to like manage like ish. Like I'm not a big business. It's pretty much just me doing a lot of work. And I'm not great at advertising, so people kind of know me just via word of mouth. And it's like I used to know people and I'm connected to some people, but I'm not very um have like 20 followers or something. Like I'm not, like online, not like a presence or anything. And so I think a lot of what I'm most proud of is being able to build community within my local community. And so people kind of know me as the local chess teacher. I used to be known, like when I remember in New York, I used to be known as like the lady with the big earrings. Like they didn't know here, but now it's like, I feel like I've been able to connect families that wouldn't have otherwise connected. Um, and I'm proud of
Yeah,
just being able to do that on a sort of lower, quieter level than some others.
maybe a more intimate level, right? Maybe a smaller, more intimate level, right? Because I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Right. I can
figure
remember the
because
name of all the students in my class, for example, like when I used to work with Mike, I remember I was so shocked because he had these chess clubs with like 70 kids. I was like, that's amazing. It's fantastic. So many students. Or Spencer, all these people who work with huge chess clubs. I'm like, but can you call on all of them in a class period? Can you like do you know all of their names? Like do you so there is something to be said about a smaller group where you can actually, yeah, get to know a person and their family and their life and be able to um, work with them more one-on-one than in this huge sort of concert auditorium chess lecture, which is just a different experience, not better or worse, but it is more intimate, which can have its benefits that way too.
yeah, absolutely. I'd like to hear, if you're comfortable talking about it, more about your experience of dropping out and then coming back, because I know it is common. It's very common for young women to drop out, especially as teenagers. Um, and
Yeah.
and most of them don't come back. So what happened there, and how did it
I'm
all
sad
work
to
out?
hear that most of them don't come back. Well, they still have time, right? If they're people you know.
It's never too late.
Yeah, they can come back now. I think there have been several times in my life where I've taken a hiatus from chess, although it has been something that I've done forever. The first time, I think being a teenager is very difficult anyway, and having a difficult home life can make your, everything sort of upside down. But as a budding young woman, like the unwanted attention is very, very difficult to manage. And of course, this is many, many years ago, right? Like I don't know what to call myself now, but anyway, I, I don't know that it's much different because I don't know the culture or anything has changed dramatically. Although I do want to say that geopolitically, I've noticed differences because I'm in the South now. I lived in New York. I lived in Arizona. I lived in Spain. There are different attitudes toward chess, toward, culturally toward women and the expectations of young women, which is a big part of it. But I dropped out. Yeah, I don't know. I was interested in boys my age, right? Like I didn't want to, um, it was embarrassing. It was difficult to handle. I didn't know how to manage it. And as a girl, I think there are a huge number of factors to play, but one of them is social. And I don't think we recognize this often enough for women and girls and who are playing chess, that it's a social experience as a supportive environment. And that's what can alleviate some of these very challenging situations. And I've had numerous, not just untoward, unfriendly, unacceptable propositions, but worse. And I, yeah, I couldn't tolerate that. But when I was younger and I would play with, I had two, two female friends that when we would go to the tournaments together. And then it was, much more manageable because we could chat with each other, we could sit with each other, we could protect each other, we could um talk about these things with each other. And then they slowly, dropped out as well, and I was sort of the last one standing. And I this happened to me recently where I feel like I'm on a break from chess right now. I mean, I'm on a break from professional chess for sure because um like my memory's just shot from having a kid many years ago. And it's just hasn't come back yet. I don't know. No, but I didn't sleep for a long time, and I'd have to really study and work hard to get back to where I was. But aside from that, they're just I was playing casually and really enjoying just casual chess and blitz chess and whatever. And I just noticed it made, and I think I think I like tagged you in something because it was like really made a difference who sits next to you at these things. Because I was sitting next to some men and they were saying things about women, and I can hear them, and it's a public place. You can say whatever you want, wherever you want, it doesn't matter. Except that it does matter because words matter and because people can hear you. And so, but it was like not really my place to say anything, but it affected me, right? So I'm trying to play against the person I'm playing against, but I have to overhear these people being gross. And then, but then later that evening, there were these women sitting next to me, and there's a totally different vibe, as the kids say. And I think that that makes a huge difference in what will inevitably have to change in the chess world in order for us to support women in chess, is to make sure that we feel safe. Because if you don't feel safe, like it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to be able to reach your potential, because you have this external, danger or fear of danger or whatever. Like it's just not cool. And so, yeah, I took a break again, and it's problematic because it's not everyone. It's some people are supportive, and yet there is a huge cultural divide there, and I don't want to be like thus. They're like, you have to come back because these women came to play because you're sitting there. I'm like, but I don't want to be a spokesperson for all women in chess. I don't want to be um, like that's a lot of pressure for me just to go out and play chess and have a beer and to play 5 minute chess, or like I'm going because I this is my self-care or whatever. Like I'm not necessarily here to make a political statement. And that's what it ends up being.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I've heard it put a way that I thought was really helpful about I was talking with someone and I can't remember who it was about why this affects performance
Yeah.
and it's and and this person, whoever it was, said it affects performance because it takes away some of your bandwidth for thinking about chess. Part of your bandwidth is thinking about this other thing, and that other thing is bugging you, and either someone is being gross and you're trying to ignore it, or you're feeling like a subconscious pressure to represent all women, and you're like, okay, like everybody's watching me, I have to perform right now, or else I will set women back 50 years or whatever, like whatever it is.
Right, right, right.
You've got extra things that are taking away at least some of your bandwidth.
Definitely. I think that's a good point. Whoever said it, it's true. And it reminds me also of the study that was done, that where it was noticed that if you tell girls in the beginning of a class, if you mention a gender divide, if you say, okay, girls this or boys this, just saying it, the girls will perform worse on the same test as if you hadn't said anything about girls, boys, or any gender division whatsoever. And that I think is incredible to know that, like, how culturally ingrained that is. So I think that's related as well.
Yeah, no, it's very culturally ingrained. And I mean, and I think what a lot of times we forget, so this is stereotype threat is the phenomenon. And yes, we do know that the whoever, and it's not just a men women thing. It could be like, it could be,
Right.
a race stereotype, whatever it is. But like whoever, whatever the stereotype is, if you tell somebody, yes, you're going to be worse at this thing, then they are worse at it. But also, if you tell someone you're going to be better at this thing, then they're better at it. And so in chess, what we have is kind of both. Like our culture forever has told women this is not for you, and men this is for you. So men are getting the opposite. They're getting stereotype lift, is what it's called. They're sort of getting a boost, like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to be good at this. And so like naturally they go in thinking, and obviously it's like, there's not any inherent genetic like predisposition to be better, but they kind of have a psychological boost, like the overconfidence. And anyway, that's a whole different thing, but
Yeah,
it helps.
no, I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, since we've been chatting about this interview, I've been thinking a lot about and even recently, my recent hiatus again from the casual chess situation has been because of this stereotype threat and the just thinking about language in general and how it's been utilized without intentionally attempting to change a situation. I think it's actually just it's so deeply ingrained. I'm thinking, for example, I'm described as an aggressive chess player. And I, without thinking, always tell my students to play aggressively. It's my style of play. I used to play very positionally. Now I'm a very tactical player, and I tell my kids play aggressively. And then when you shorten it, and you just hear she's aggressive. Um, this has a connotation, of course, that's like really different than, um, it's not a necessarily docile, Southern appreciated like personality trait that's what we admire necessarily in a woman. And I think it can relate to being assertive, which I think women, I might in particular have a difficult time doing in certain situations. And then when I do, then I get labeled as, you know, whereas men don't seem to have this. And I don't, again, this is all generalization, but this is whether more like male CEOs or where the thing about how men think that they're I hope we have the study on this, how men
Serena
think that
Williams.
well, tell me in a
No,
second,
I'm
but
sorry.
how
Yeah.
people talk, men think that women talk more, but they did a study that like um they did a study. We'll have to find it. Men think that women talk more, but in a space of time in a meeting, they're actually not speaking anymore. They're speaking less. But the fact that the words are coming out of their mouth of the men like are like how dare they? I don't know. It's I'll have to find that one because it's a very interesting sort of I think generalization that a lot of people have that like women talk so much. But I do think anyway, just caught me up with that word aggressive versus like assertive and reiterate the sense that this is not a place for women and that we have to fight for this place when I just want to talk about chess and have fun playing chess. It's something that should be considered. It's something that should be thought of and talked about more. And yeah, I really I have been humbled and shocked by a lot of, I guess, inconsistencies by people who purportedly are pro inclusive. All players should be playing chess. Everyone is welcome here at our chess club. And then, but remember, this is a game for men. It's a gentleman's game. So, and then being
Mm.
called a victim when I so yeah, I've had like a few experiences, and this is like super minor, but like these are the things that stick with me that prevent me from going again. Because what if it happens again, or what if it's worse, or what if it's.
Yeah. Well, I don't, I mean, if it has an effect, then it probably isn't minor. I mean, it might be small in time or in whatever, but it's probably not minor.
It's
Because
universal
this,
too. Yeah,
well,
that's
yeah, I mean, you're not the only one to have these stories and to have these feelings, and um, and I mean, the fact is that in the U.S., 13% of tournament players are women. I mean, and it's just a touch one shade of 13%. I can't remember, and it might go up just a touch, but anyway, it's like it's very low, right? Is the point, and we're not going to fix it by saying, well, that's just a minor problem. I mean, in my mind, the fact that it's so lopsided is an emergency. Like, this is not a healthy community if it is this lopsided. Um, and so, I mean, think about like Title IX in sports. Like, it was very similarly lopsided back in the day. Women in school playing sports, there were no resources, there wasn't access, and then and then Title IX was implemented because it was seen as a problem, and it worked. Like, and now boom, you have just as many girls playing sports as you do boys. And so I don't think you fix the problem by saying, well, that's not really a problem. Like, by not listening to women, I don't think ignoring women is the way to fix a problem.
well, I think we're used to it being minimized and dismissed, and I think our the word hysteric has been utilized for hundreds of years, and so there's that conscious like effort to diminish ourselves and make ourselves smaller. It's not really a problem. I promise, everything's fine. Because then if we do, it's like we're hyperbolizing, and we're exaggerating. We're making a bigger deal of it. It's what's a big deal, and then there is that backlash with minimizing. Then I think it kind of goes the other way. Then they're like people like me, and I'm like very like, are you kidding? Like, this is the end of the world. Like, I think it's not minor, and it's because it's continuous. It increases in measure. So even a lot of small things add up to a very big problem. But 13% is actually bigger than when I was a kid. So it was like 10% like 20 years ago. So like, so, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
3%. No, but I think you're right. And also another health emergency, right? Like, uh, the difference between a physical ailment and an emotional one, which I just think is so much more difficult for people to identify that this is a real problem, because you can't see how it affects a person internally.
Mm.
So, I think like we're trying to recognize this with disabilities. Maybe this is something you could talk about with your experience, like helping people with disabilities. I think like there's a lot of disabilities where if you don't see the disability, then you go, well, why are you parked there? Right? And then, but clearly there are disabilities that are just as incapacitating that you can't visually evaluate. And I think it's important to see that like we're whole people, and that there's physical and there's mental.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wanted to circle back before I forget.
Okay,
You
Serena Williams or what? No.
Serena Williams. It was the Serena Williams story. I thought that's what you were going to say, because that's the first thing that came to my mind about
She's
men
awesome.
talk more than they think they talk.
Right.
And I thought you were going to say there was a funny poll or a study. I'm sure it wasn't scientific, but it was something like a certain number of men thought that they could win a point
Oh, yeah.
against
I
Serena
saw that.
Williams.
I saw that.
Yeah, and
Right. The
yeah, it's like,
audacity. The same number think that they could like fly the plane, just um
yeah. Well, and it's because, like, okay, well, like, maybe it's because our culture, and I mean, and it's funny, but also I think it's because our culture just like generally tells men like, hey, you are going to be good at this, right? It's sort of like stereotype lift, but it's like across the board, like, and so And so I think, men sort of in general, like have kind of this sense, and it's inflated, like I can do things, and maybe it results in them actually being able to do things, but also it comes from like a false place. It's sort of like, well, because you have been told that chess is a place for you, or maybe like sports is a place for you. Now you think like you can fly a plane, even if you don't know how, or you could beat Serena Williams, who's like the best, or, so
Sure.
it kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a funny way to think about, a funny example, I think,
Right.
of the phenomenon.
Yeah, when you're watching TV and you're watching tennis on TV, for example, and they show you how fast a person's serve is, and then you compare, oh, the men's serve, oh wow, it's 125 miles per hour, and then like the women's serve, I don't know, what is 100 miles per hour or whatever it is, but it's like lower, and you're like, oh well, I can handle that. But that's it. That's not being just because it's lower. Like there's no one's gonna, you're not getting that serve back. Like that's an ace whatever the number is. But I think we're falsely comparing these numbers and saying like the best in the world and the best in the world, but they're still both going to beat you. But also the thing is that that boys and men, I think boys have a lot, like I'll get to that in a second because I think they struggle with a lot of other cultural pressures in along those along the same vein. But what I would say is that gives them, this confidence gives them opportunity. So it's not necessarily that they're going to fly the plane or they're going to be better at something or they're going to be better at chess, but they're going to take the risk and try playing, whereas a girl may not take it. And so the opportunities are what grow for boys and for men and young men, because they simply think, why not? Like their chances of failure in their mind are much smaller than they are in a woman's mind, or the repercussions from failure are maybe not so great, or whatever it is. And I think that's what it is when we look at, the socioeconomics of some people who are just never going to have the opportunities as other people, that can also apply in gender in chess.
Yeah. Well, we know from similar, we know from labor economics that women will not apply to jobs that they are qualified for, and men will apply to jobs that they're not qualified for because just like you said, they're like, well, why not?
Right.
And
Is
and
that
so
a
that
good, what do we think about this? Is this overconfidence something we should be teaching women so that they can apply for jobs they're not qualified for? Or is it just delusional on everyone's part?
well, good question. Whether we teach women to be okay, I think what I'd like is for us to be teaching girls and boys the same thing, whatever it is. Either everybody you should be confident, or everybody you should be realistic. Um, yeah, I think the for me the gap is the thing that I have a problem with, because now what we end up with is qualified women self-selecting out of things that they're qualified for because of some, belief that maybe they're not good enough, even though they are.
Right. I mean, I meet a lot of the women who are parents of the kids that I work with, and I run these women's chess groups frequently when I can, and they sort of peter out because women often have multiple roles in life, which is part of, the difficulty with staying with chess as an adult woman, because family and career are constantly battling each other. But they'll almost without a doubt, I mean, just universally tell me, oh, I can't play chess. I would never. I couldn't, that's not, my brain can't do that. It doesn't think that way. And and I have to say, like, well, what way? Like, what do you mean? What is it that you think you can't do? Um, and it's very often not a lengthy conversation because they've already decided this is just not for them. They'll let their kid try it. They'll maybe poke around. They'll listen, and then they turn off. And so I feel bad that that has been so ingrained in their psyche, and that they're not going to pursue it. And even the women who I was able to work with for a longer period of time, I noticed that what I ended up teaching them was just how not to play so defensively. Because I think it's almost like a personality trait where, like, especially mothers, right? You have to protect your kid. And I felt this way for so many years. I still do. Very, very protective of my child. But like, I'm making an assumption that this is also how they're playing chess, is like defend because these things are important, you know. And I'm just like, hey, it doesn't matter. They're just pieces. Go for it. And my hero is Judith Polgar. It's just material. Go for the initiative. Like you have to go for the attack. You know, try everything. If you lose, you lose. Like whatever. It's a fun game, right? Like you have to make it interesting. And
Yeah.
with the boys, I tell them that they're very rarely defensive, but yeah, they don't seem to care as much about the material as some women do. And so I think that's like an interesting distinction as well. It's like first the adult women who think they can't play because it's not something that their brain is capable of, which I think is bananas. And then second that when they do that, they tend to be more timid about it. Um, so yeah.
I mean, confidence is huge. It reminds me of how we talk about math. I don't want to throw any particular person under the bus, but I know adult women who will say, I'm not good at math, and I've never been good at math. And we say, well, girls aren't good at math or whatever. Like that's the thing. And yet, like from what we know from like meta-analyses is that girls actually start out better at math, and then boys take over, and then boys pull ahead. But there is a time when they're children that girls are actually better, and so and who knows why. I mean, we know it's not biology, but it's sort of like, well, either they have other interests or whatever. But now, like, we have adult women saying, well, I'm not good at math or chess or whatever. And it's like, well, you haven't tried. How do you know? It's like my
Right.
kids saying, I don't like that food. Well, you haven't tried it. How you know you're not going to like it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I would love for people to be more open-minded, and also just the preconceived notion that math is something that requires intelligence, but maybe it's just something that requires memory, or maybe it's something that requires a certain basic skill that can be improved upon. Like it's the same for chess. I think people have this idea that like chess, you have to be like some sort of, you know, you have to be smart to play chess, and I don't think that's true at all. Um, I think, that's probably where we get into the ego problem with men. We're like, well, why has she beat me? I must be an idiot. But like, I think it's just that it has nothing to. It's a ton of different skills. Memory is a big one, but there's pattern recognition, and there's how hard you work and how dedicated you are and diligent you are in studying, and then there's tactical patterns, and then there's endgame techniques and whatever. There's like a million different things when it comes to chess. It's not just like smart. And I also think that we have a totally misunderstood view of what smart is, because there's different ways of being smart, obviously, and so to be able to think critically about what it is that you're actually saying, both about yourself and about the game and about other people when you say these things. It has value and has meaning, and it's something to be debated. I uh I do get uncomfortable talking about the women's tournament and the women's only stuff, and we haven't got into it. But when I bring that up with my students, or they bring it up with me, like it's a very uncomfortable conversation. And I also think it's just like incredibly important to have, that discomfort with the or there'll be one girl, and she's like, I'm the only girl here. And then I'll have to be like, well, I'm here, and I'm a girl. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like, it's very noticeable. And then the boys go, why are you having a thing for girls? And why can't the boys come in? That's not fair. And then, we have to go into this whole spiel about like why these things do exist and why they are important. And again, it's about opportunity and numbers, and just trying to open that door that's been closed to so many people for so long, and just give them the opportunity to see if they do like it, and maybe it is for them, and then to have women stick with it, I think, through their lives is probably a much bigger challenge. I have chess clubs where we're 50-50 boys and girls at a very young age, first, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, not so much. And that's, probably typical of when math numbers start to change.
Well, let's keep talking about women's titles. I mean, we're here now. I ask everybody, do you think women's titles should exist? And if not, what should we do?
I absolutely think that women's titles should exist. I think women's tournaments should exist. I think women should be paid the same amount for winning a tournament as men. I think it's uh, problematic when women are offered chess trophies in lieu of money for a women's only event. I think it's really the only way now that we have as like a broader organization, FIDE or USCF, to be able to offer an incentive to women to continue the uh, to achieve a title. And I think it's unfortunate that people will delineate or discriminate, between the titles because it is an achievement to attain any sort of a title. It's, this is a lot of work. And so I think there should be women's titles. I think it's cool, like sometimes when there is a woman who can choose between the titles, whether she chooses like a WGM or just IM, whatever it is, like I think that's a more power to them for being able to make that distinction for themselves or what sounds better to them. But it's I was thinking of How You Fun. I was trying to mention her earlier where I was thinking like she is the youngest woman to ever have become world champion. And I know when I say that, everyone's gonna go, yeah, but world champion or women's world champion? Yeah, women's world champion. She was 16 years old when she became the women's world chess champion. And I still think that that's like a remarkable achievement. And to make the distinction, yeah, but she wasn't world champion, she's women's world champion, does nothing but diminish. There's no need for it. And I think we just have to be like, these are accolades, these are accomplishments that we should be proud of anybody for being able to achieve. So yeah, yes for titles. I mean, they have it for men too, where there's like candidate master. That wasn't around when I was growing up. No, CM, please. Like whatever. Like they were okay. So you worked hard, you get to be a CM, and then you get to be a master. Okay, but I think it's if whatever we can do to increase the statistic or that ratio between men and women so that the it becomes closer to 50-50. Oh, absolutely.
So you're okay. So you like titles because it's your feeling that they bring in women, like as a recruitment tactic is why we like
Or
titles.
to stay in it. Not, I mean, I don't think you can like start out as like a WI, like you're not gonna,
Well,
suddenly
okay,
achieve this.
retention. Yeah.
Yes. I think it's more of what's achievable. I don't think, Judith Polgar had this idea, right, that she was like only going to play against the best, so she didn't play in the women's chess tournaments, and I totally get that, legit. She is very, she's my absolute hero, one of a kind. I think for the majority of women, if there's a women's only tournament, first of all, you can ignore a lot of those outside pressures that exist in men and women tournaments. I don't think it should be like only women's tournaments or only men's tournaments. There should be a mix of both. But the opportunity that there once in a while there's a women's only event or there's a women's and an open, but they shouldn't happen at the same time. I remember Irina Krush had this problem where she had to make this decision between like the US women's or the US Open. And I think that that was a really poor choice on USCF's part to like have them exist at the same time. But of course, the women get paid a lot less for the women's events than the open events. But then there's no women playing in the open events. And I think this is in many sports and tennis and I mean everything, right? Like, so that's the problem I have with all of it. But I think that's why How You Fun ended up not playing in the Women's World Chess Championship any longer is because they weren't, they're not paying the same amount. It's not
It's
even
funny
close.
be well, it's funny because now I think because a lot of people realize that um the gender gap is a big problem. Now the women's events do pay pretty well. And but then it kind of twists the incentives for really strong women because they say, well, now I could play in the women's section and probably make more money. Or I could play in the men's section and play against what would be stronger average players. And so and so now what happens is, well, they say, well, I'm going to go for the money, right? Well, I would, anyone would. So they say, well, I'm going to play for the money. And now what you have is like all the women taking points away from each other in the women's section. Um,
I didn't even think about that.
and they're not playing in the open. So, and I think you made this distinction, but it seems like what you're doing is you're distinguishing between women's only events, like standalone events, and women's sections of a tournament where a woman would have to choose, like the Arena Crush example. What you don't like, and I think I agree with you, is a women's section of a tournament where a woman would have to choose between playing in the women's section or in the open section. Is that
Right.
right? But a
Obviously.
women,
Yeah.
okay, but a women's only event that's sort of like, hey, women empowerment. Let's get together. Let's make friends. Those are the things that are good.
Yes. And also it's still chess. So it's not just women's empowerment and let's make friends. It's a chess tournament where you can focus on chess.
Yeah,
Right? So
yeah,
yeah, and the side benefits are that maybe you make friends or maybe make money or you whatever it is. But I think having a women's only event means you're going to avoid some unwanted, attention. Um, but I think I've had a very difficult time with this recently because of um, during my, career as a teacher, now I have to I have to announce when I do these things of women or anybody who identifies as a woman because I want to be inclusive. The purpose of this is to increase the number of minority gender, whichever, whatever gender that may be. And so I would want for there to be a space that's safe for everybody to be able to focus on their game and play chess in a competitive environment. And I would love for that to just be an open event. I think what a women's tournament can do is offer that experience in a somewhat safer environment.
yeah. No, that's perfect. You said it much better than I did. Yeah, and hopefully hopefully our open tournaments will get there someday. I don't know. I'm also a tournament director, and I helped with the Oregon State Scholastic Championships this year. We had 350 or 360 players. We had 25% girls, which is the highest we'd ever had, and yeah, I mean, I think among the kids, at least, I mean, everyone was respectful. We didn't have that I was tracking any complaints of harassment or misconduct or bad behavior or anything. Um, so I hope that our open events will go keep going that direction. But let me ask you, like, while we're on this topic, are you optimistic for the future of chess? Are you pessimistic for the future of chess? What's your vision for the future?
I've run a lot of girls' chess tournaments and women's chess tournaments and girls' events and women's events. And in addition to chess for everyone, um, that were exclusive. And I don't always feel comfortable making it exclusive. And I think there are other ways that we can approach this problem of equalizing or making it more equitable in opportunity. Just to go back to like whether it's money or whether it's I think I was watching one of your episodes with someone who was talking about the number of people who are required on a team for like you have to have one woman per team. And I think that stuck with me like no, you should have at least two because then they can talk to each other and they can support each other. Like you then if you have one woman, she's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. Like right? Like all the pictures that I see of the tournaments that I again going back to who's sitting next to you, it's really important for the environment. So I think we're going to have to address a lot of disparate problems in order to tackle this. And so some days I'm optimistic and some days I am not so optimistic. And I think I have a bigger challenge living where I live now in the South because of many other underlying, either political or cultural identities that are, I am one human being, and so I have my little community and yay, the butterfly effect, like, okay, I make this little itty bitty change here, and then this person's gonna make their little, and then we're gonna change the whole entire world. And I do feel a little optimistic about that on occasion. And then sometimes when I get these questions about, for my students, why is there a girls tournament, or why did you call her a WGM, or what, you know, the biggest question is always like, well, how many times, has Judah really beat Magnus Carlsen? Like, how many times should we, this sort of like, this comparison is always like, or why was there only one girl at the in the championship section at the last tournament, and then like the one kid will jokingly say, something that he's learned, like whatever, patriarchal baloney about how something I won't repeat. And it's like, he's a little kid, so I know that this is not coming from him. And it makes me think of the James Baldwin quote, that like children they're like really bad listeners, but they're excellent imitators, And so so I think a lot of what we need to do is sort of model what we expect from them, not just tell them like women are allowed to play chess because we're smart too and we can do it. And it's like, yeah, they hear a lot of this stuff, but when they see more women participate, or when women see each other participating in more events, that's what will make a difference. And so when I see that, or when I see my students sort of recognizing or keeping an open mind, and being able to hear, then I feel a little bit better. But I think this ties into any minority, any stereotype. It's not just women, it's anyone who doesn't have the same opportunities socioeconomically or otherwise. There are a lot of things holding people back that I really wish I could change. So I feel like it can go either way. I feel I have good days and bad days. I'm a human being after all. So, but I'm still doing it. Still here.
Yeah.
I think it's irrespective of politics. It's irrespective of everything. It's just we're human beings and we should treat each other equally and respectfully, no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. And I am with you about not always feeling optimistic. I doubt anyone always feels optimistic. Yeah, but you're still here and you're still doing the work. So props to you for sticking with it. But if you had a magic wand and could make any changes that you saw fit to make chess more equal, what would you do?
If you have a chess tournament or a chess club or a chess camp or a workshop or some event, not necessarily competitive, and the girl comes up and says, hi, I'm so and so, and whatever, and the person running the event says, oh, don't you look cute today? This sets the tone automatically for appearance in lieu of intelligence, for example. And I think I think I think we just really have to be super aware of the way that we talk to children, because what we say has an effect on them forever, whether they know it or not, whether they're aware of it or not. And we can be encouraging or discouraging and promoting certain qualities and not promoting other qualities. And I think if I were to wave the magic wand, it would be to like think before you speak, because I don't think people are doing it intentionally to try to make a girl feel like she has to look cute. But it's in the art world as well, right? We're constantly judging people on their appearance, on not their intelligence or their skills or their whatever, or even back to Serena and like her tennis outfits. Like, this is not irrelevant to anything with what she's wearing, and suddenly it's a topic of discussion. So I think that would be That would be one thing, would be to try to help people realize that they do have extraordinary power in their vocabulary and language over the way that an interaction will persist in the mind of a young person for a long time, and their perception of themselves and what their capabilities are, and then, what their opportunities may be in the future.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man. You've got great power, so you have great responsibility, right? You've
It's
got to
just
use.
like Spider-Man. I think like we just have a huge amount of responsibility we're not even aware of. The way that we look at them and the way that we, what our expectations of them are will become true.
Yeah, no, yeah, they can sense it even if it's subconscious, and uh, adults too, but children especially want to please, and that they want to do the right thing. So I usually finish by, talking about how people can support you. So first, let's talk about your books. I counted 4 that you've published. Is that right?
There are 4, and the one that's been republished and is going to be republished again or reprinted in 2027 is Learn to Play Chess. This one came out a long time ago. It's not the most like popular on Amazon. How to Play Chess for Kids is like hands down the most popular one. But my first chess book, then they reprinted it as Learn to Play Chess.
Okay.
They're gonna and then they reprinted it in German, which I think is the coolest thing ever.
I
Um,
saw
I
that.
was like, for
Do
real.
you speak German? I wondered.
No, I didn't translate it. I hope it's right. I mean, I speak a little, but not enough to be able to translate my own book.
Okay.
But anyway, this is the first book that I had written and for chess. And it's one that I'm really proud of because it's non-didactic, and it's the only chess book I know of that is developed as a way for people to simply learn on their own without being shown how to think about it. And so it gives them an opportunity to play with their friends and family via games that are chunked into different like okay, we in chess in schools we called it monster rook, but this is rookie cookie. The way we have it here,
Cookie. Yeah.
rookie cookie. And so you just have it's just teaching how the pieces move. For example, you have a bunch of statues on the board, and the rook has to go around and capture them all. But what they're really learning is the most efficient path and the quickest path, and you know, um, the way this is just how pieces move. But then it goes on to tournament chess and forks and some tactics and create a mate was one of the more fun ways. And I've come up with these incredibly funny, I think, mnemonics and ways of teaching. After having done this for so many years, the queen dance, how to win with a king and a queen. That one is a bit more didactic because there is a technique for it. Boots and bug, which is I teach the kids how to win with the ladder checkmate with the two these are your feet, and then you have to get the bug out of your house. So you're trying to sweep it upstairs and the window or sweep it downstairs and let it out the door. And you want to step on it because that would be gross. And then you don't want to bite your toe because that would really hurt and whatever. So I make everything into sort of like sort of
I
a
love
joke.
it.
And yeah, and they did a really great job. Like they illustrated it in a really great way. So I like this is very much of a beginner chess book, and it's just activities. You set this up, you play, and then like you and your family or whomever figure out like the best way to do it. So that one is the only book that's like non-didactic, like I said. But the other ones were fun for me for different reasons because I got the chance to like highlight a lot of chess players that I feel hadn't gotten their due or hadn't been exposed as much as the old white men had. And so I got a chance to kind of discover new games for myself that I was interested in teaching that demonstrated the same exact themes, that could be found in other games. But I was fortunate to be able to be given the chance to do my own research and find examples from contemporary, younger players or players who are less well known than other players. And so I was glad to be able to be given the opportunity for that. But yeah, I have those books. I have those 4 books out, and all the articles on Chess Kid, which is hilarious articles on Chess Kid because kids don't read articles. But they are
Yeah.
mostly there's like hundreds of them, and I'm always like, you could read my article. The kids are like, I'm not reading an article, but article is really the wrong word because it's really just like a bunch of exercises or puzzles with like little explanations. So it's just thematic.
I mean, you're teaching in the schools. Do you take private students?
Sure, yeah, all the time. So yeah, I teach private lessons. I work on Zoom, and then I use chess.com or chesskid.com as like the interface. And so we can create an account for them on ChessKid, for example, and be able to analyze their games and then give them specific homework like from my articles, and then lessons. And I work with a lot of people in Charlotte and Davidson, around town. Everyone knows me as like the chess lady at all the coffee shops. And I do think it's
Yeah.
cool, like for the kids to be, because again, it's sort of showing who's capable of playing, right? And like, yes, like your 5-year-old little girl can play chess, like of course, and why not? And I teach this summer camp with Ben and Jerry's, and so it's like this ice cream camp, and it's like, but they go to the local stores and they go to like there's a law office, and then they go to the bookstore, and we're a local little itty bitty town, Davidson, north of Charlotte, and so I get, my one day at the Ben and Jerry's camp, and it's like it's cute. It's all these little kids, and like everyone's like, "Oh, did they? I can't believe they learned how to play chess." And it's like, of course, like anyone can do it. And really, what I'm hoping is that they are motivated to stick with it. That it's I'm not like designing like world champions. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I will take them to the next level, whatever level, and then send them on to whomever. But my goal is that they discover something about themselves that they're capable of, that they're interested in, and that chess is something that they can utilize as a tool and enjoy their whole lives.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think what I tell my students and parents is that, we learn a lot of things about life from chess, and one of the things that you mentioned is confidence.
There's a lot of like social emotional stuff that I think kids learn via playing and losing and winning. I know, just playing chess, and having to manage your emotions and all of the ups and downs that come with that I think are definitely tools when I'm trying to explain programs to parents and uh, chess clubs. And what am I doing? We're not just hanging out like pushing wood, as they used to say, pushing the playing
Yeah.
chess to put them in the pieces. Like there's a lesson, there's cultural history. I talk about like people from other cultures. We could pull the map down, this is where they're from, and we talk about language and other different vocabulary from different countries. And but then also like as a class, how do we deal with these emotions that come up, because a lot of emotions come up while you're playing chess. So, and also I do, of course, work with adults. I talk about kids all the time because they're the ones who are the most consistent in my program. But I also work with adults, and a lot of that is psychological. It's a lot of pinpointing like what's going on in their mind when they're playing, and like how they get to the next level because there's something holding them back. And so definitely like going back to what I said originally, like there's a lot of like therapy work that I do in chess because it's a lot of your personality kind of comes out, I think, when you play. And so yeah, I work with adults too. So
Yeah.
yeah, probably
No,
up to
that's
like
great.
1,600 or so. I think I would feel comfortable.
Yeah. That's great. I'm so glad I got to talk to you. Is there anything that I've forgotten or that you want to add?
Do you know Nadezhda Mandelstam, Osip Mandelstam's wife from
I
Russia? She
don't.
wrote this memoir, Hope Against Hope, and then her second memoir, Hope Abandoned. So, but anyway, so like 1930s Russia.
Okay.
So Osip Mandelstam is a poet, and he was, well, without getting you can Wikipedia all of Osip Mandelstam stuff, but she had to memorize his poetry because it was considered anti-government, and so he was, sent off to he was exiled, and then later he was murdered, and but she had memorized his work, and it was so we have it today. And I think going back to this idea of how important language is, um, I think we can learn a lot from poetry. We can learn a lot from fiction. We can learn a lot from the humanities. we can learn a lot from interdisciplinary subjects, and I think they're all connected. Uh, and then chess is a really wonderful way to connect all of them together.
I agree. That's lovely. Thank you. All right.
A good way to end that.